Hello there, and a warm welcome to our weekly look inside Syria. I'm Laura Kyle. The Emir of Qatar has called on Arab militaries to help stop the bloodshed in Syria. It's a move challenging UN efforts at resolving the 18-month conflict through negotiation. But addressing the UN General Assembly, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani's message was clear. The UN has failed in its mission. It's now time for Arab intervention.
We
have used all available means of getting Syria out of the cycle of killing, but that was in vain. The Security Council failed to reach an effective position. In view of this, I think it is better for the Arab countries themselves to interfere out of their national and humanitarian duties, politically and militarily, in order to do what is necessary to stop the bloodshed in Syria, the killing and displacement of innocent people, and guarantee a peaceful transition of power.
Well, in a news conference in New York on Tuesday, Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was highly critical of any foreign intervention in Syria. Ahmadinejad accused outside forces of meddling in the country, although he didn't directly name any particular country. He warned that outside interference might throw the region into a new war, bringing, quote, short-term results, but which he said would keep Syria in chaos and instability for decades to come. Now, Qatar's Prime Minister has told Al Jazeera since that Ahmadinejad is wrong to suggest that Arab forces in Syria would inflame the crisis. He said the forces will not be going to Syria to fight. Their goal will be to stop what is going on in Syria. He added, as you know, there were originally Arab forces which went there to observe the ceasefire in the past. And these forces, because they were few and not well equipped, would not stop the bloodbath. There must be a sufficient number of peacekeeping forces, and fighting in Syria must stop. So here today to look in more depth at this proposed Arab force, we're joined by our guests in Toronto, Hassan Hachimi, member of the General Secretariat of the Syrian National Council. In Beirut, Elias, Hanna, military analyst and retired military general in the Lebanese army. And also in Beirut, Joseph Kechichian, independent Middle East analyst and columnist for Gulf newspaper. Thank you all, gentlemen, very much for joining us. Elias, Hanna, if I could start with you. This Arab force, what exactly do you think is being proposed here? I mean, Qatar says it's not going to be used to fight. So how then does he propose that it's going to end the bloodshed?
I think when you talk about an Arab force deterrence or force to stabilize Syria, the situation in Syria is very critical, and we are going like more than, almost 2 years, a civil war, turning into sectarian war. You cannot have a force to stabilize the country unless you have many issues at many levels. First, you have to have legitimacy for this force. Who is going to give it legitimacy? The Arab League or the United Nations Security Council? There is a lot of problems at this level. Moreover, the willingness of countries, of Arab countries, to participate and come and share. Moreover, how are you going to prepare these forces? Equipment, structure, rule of engagement, what kind of forces you need? Moreover, if we really did have an experience in Lebanon in 1976, the Arab deterrence forces, it is totally different. The time has changed. The Arab world is no more the same. The environment, the international order, the world order is different. So I think there is a lot of problems in order to send an Arab force to stabilize Syria. Moreover, Syria geographically is huge, and then the ramification. What's going to happen if something fire on these forces? Are you going to fight? So you need air, sea, and land forces, and maybe one command and control. How you are going to do it? What about extending? What about the great powers, especially Russia? What about the regional powers, especially Iran? So that's why, as you mentioned earlier, the reply or the answer of Ahmadinejad to the Qatari Prime Minister.
OK, you certainly raised an awful lot of issues there. I want to pick up on the first point that you made. Hassan Hachimi, there in Toronto. This question of legitimacy, of this Arab force needing legitimacy within Syria. Do you think the Syrian opposition is ready to request an Arab force, an Arab presence in the country? Does it want one?
Absolutely. I think the the Syrian opposition are in a position, and they have been for a long time, crying for any type of help that would stop the bloodshed in Syria. We are in a position, we are in a situation where we are losing every single day 150, 200 lives. And this has been going on for the last year and a half. And today when I hear this rhetoric of obstacles, of course none of the initiatives will be an easy one or a straightforward solution. Any proposal would definitely need a lot to make it work. And we are looking into this or such a suggestion, such a proposal as an initiative that would eliminate the concern of some, which we're always hinting to foreign intervention. Now, this is an Arab intervention. The Arabs are the first who would be expected to come forward and help the Syrian people. And of course, they need all what it takes, all what it needs to make it work, whether it has to be with the logistics or the political coverage in the international arena or within the Arab League itself. I think we are in a desperate need for any initiative that would bring this into a solution. And I agree with Prince Hamad when he said that the United Nations have failed, and we all know why it failed. It failed because Russia was the obstacle, and Russians and Iranians are facelessly and shamelessly, they keep helping the Syrian regime, and at the same time spreading the idea of the foreign intervention. So their foreign intervention is allowed, but an Arab intervention today is
well, let's look at how this Arab force would play out. I mean, how do you see it being formed? How many troops would be needed? Which countries do you think would supply them?
Well, I think the friends of Syria within the Arab countries are majority. Actually, even those which are reluctant to do any direct support to the Syrian revolution in the past was all because of the foreign intervention issue, not because of their reluctance to help the Syrian people. So even countries like Algeria or Sudan, for example, I think some of the countries which their position is not completely clear, but we do know that they will support an initiative that is more of an Arab initiative, an initiative that would, but at the same time, be a serious one and has what it takes in order to be a successful initiative. So when, if you are asking about who would support this, I think all the Arab League, all the Arab countries would support it, except for those countries which have positions which we all know.
Okay, Joseph Kechichian, do you think the Arabs are ready to come forward and provide troops for a united Arab League in Syria?
In the absence of a peacekeeping operation or foreign intervention, two catchphrases, obviously, the alternative is to have a perpetual civil war in Syria that will last for another 4, 5, 6 years or more. Obviously, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani has reflected the frustrations of the League of Arab States and the United Nations Security Council members, both of which have failed. Not just the UN Security Council, but also the League of Arab States have failed as well. So we are in front of a dilemma at this point. On the one hand, there is a desire to put an end to the bloodshed, to end the daily killings that we all see. On the other hand, very few countries have the wherewithal, or more importantly, the willpower to actually intervene and stop the killing. What will it take? I think what will it take is very simple. Forget about a peacekeeping operation, simply because of what we've heard earlier. The logistics are very complicated. You're going to have a tremendous rules of engagement issues whereby both belligerents, that is the Republic of Syria as well as the opposition, will have to agree to the terms of the rules of engagement, etc. Therefore, the peacekeeping operations is really in abeyance. It will not happen anytime soon. What's left is, forget about foreign military intervention as well. What's left is an Arab intervention. And that will require willpower. Will Qatar, Saudi Arabia, perhaps even Egypt and Iraq, will they put the military power together under a single command, perhaps deployed in Jordan, to actually go in and change the regime in Damascus? That's the end game.
Yep, it is.
Everything else
Elias,
is
Hanna,
detail.
what do you think? As the Emir says, do you, as he says, the Arabs that should feel a national and humanitarian duty to interfere, do you think that is a true sentiment across the Arab region?
Yeah, I mean, we have to differentiate between humanitarian intervention like Libya and many other places. The game in the Middle East is highly complicated and it's very dangerous. Now, when we think about Iraq, Lebanon, and Jordan interfering, we're talking about proximity, geographical proximity. Now, if you want to go, if you remember, the Arab Defense Forces, Arab Deterrent Forces in 1976, 90% of them there were 30,000. 90% of them were Syrians, and they were already here participating in the ongoing civil war. And for the first clash, every country from the United Arab Emirates, it was like symbolic participation, and from Sudanese, they fled the situation, and we started the civil war anew, especially after the Camp David Treaty. Now, the problem is multidimensional. It's not linear thinking to say that Jordan is going to come, or Iraq. Iraq is not really willing now to participate. Why? Because Iraq of today is totally different from Iraq of yesterday. And Lebanon also, it has a lot of internal complications. Now, if you want to go into Iraq, into Syria, I mean, in order to pacify it, so you have 50%. If you are willing to go inside, how about the other 50% that the regime of al-Assad saying no, what you gonna do? You know what I mean? So now, if you want to pacify and stabilize Syria, you have to occupy Syria a la Iraqi model. But remember, 150,000 American forces were, plus multinational forces, were in Iraq with the most advanced weaponry in the world, arsenal, and the most advanced technology, communication, and you name it. And see the result, like $3 trillion and more than 5,000 to 6,000 American troop kills. And then until today, we are witnessing, like, you know, a Vietnam case in America. It is not, it's not one dimension or linear, it's multi-dimensional. My opinion is that everybody is letting Syria to go into fatigue, more attrition. It is the low-cost strategy. You leave it until it collapses from inside, and then you go into humanitarian intervention from Turkey, from Jordan, as well as from Lebanon. Now, I think that it is a duty for the Prime Minister of Qatar to say this. It's like high responsibility, but who is not willing to do it, and who is willing to do it, he really cannot go and interfere in Syria.
Hassan, Hachimi, what's your response to that? Do you think that it is wrong at this point for an Arab force to go into Syria, that it should run its course?
The proposal needs to be detailed and for the countries to express their willing to participate seriously in such an initiative. The proposal, if I mentioned already, if it doesn't have what it takes to be a successful one, it will be a tragedy. It will be actually, it might make even things worse. So I think for the military experts to detail the needs, and the Arab countries will determine if they are willing to participate in such initiative. We think that the Arab countries are in a position, after we have gone through all this year and a half trying to do something to help the people in Syria, are in a position today, they have a duty on their shoulders to come forward and stop the bloodshed. I mentioned already that this is not going to be straightforward. It's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be a hard one. And it needs what it takes. It needs the support of the international community as well. It needs the support of the Arab countries. We understand that some will not participate. That's totally understandable. Whether some of them would be for legitimate reasons and some of them would be for reasons that we don't agree with, that's another story. But at the end of the day, an initiative from the Arab countries, which are not very famous in terms of the history of similar initiative. We haven't had a similar situation before, and always when we go back in time, we don't find very encouraging examples to measure
especially
to.
because, of
But
course, you're aware of the Syrian military is one of the best equipped in the regions. If we just look at the practicalities, the logistics of this, are Arab troops prepared to take on the Syrian military?
But let me say this. I mean, although that this is the case in Syria, but we have to not to forget that with the little power that the revolution has, with the Free Syrian Army has, we were able to do a lot in Syria. And we all know that we started this fight we started actually a revolution to reform a regime. We developed into a revolution and it ended up protecting our people, defending ourselves against the regime. And we found ourselves, when we started the Free Syrian Army, fighting Russia and Iran in Syria. So today, indeed, in fact, we are not against the Syrian army. The documents that we lately had from Syria proved that Hezbollah sent 250 people into Aleppo only 2 months after the revolution started. So this unfortunately, foreign intervention from Russia and Iran has been going on for a long time, and these poor Syrian people who initially wanted to have this revolution to defend, to ask for their simplest human needs and dignity and freedom, they found themselves fighting Russia and Iran. So if we talk today about
Kechichian, Kechichian, want to bring you in at this point because Hassan Hachimi is right, isn't he? There are already foreign forces involved in this conflict in Syria. And don't you think it's ironic that we should be having Iran criticising foreign intervention when it's already admitted that its elite revolutionary guards are advising Assad's forces?
Well, you know, international affairs is the work of irony. And I am not surprised that the Iranian leadership speaks the way it does. Obviously, they're intervening. The Iranians are intervening in Syria, as are Russians and so on. Not just militarily, but more importantly, financially as well. Because obviously, the Syrian government is spending a great deal of money to maintain its legitimacy, and it is being supplied by the Iranians as well. So there is already foreign intervention. I agree with your other guest that, in fact, this is a war of attrition right now, and it's not going to be easy. And wars of attrition have a tendency of going on forever, essentially. What Sheikh Hamad Al-Thani of Qatar essentially reflected was the need to put an end to this kind of a bloodshed. Whether or not it's going to have to be under the auspices of the League of Arab States with a punch force that will go in, or whether it will be a peacekeeping operation. Presumably this is something that will be discussed over the next few months, I should say, and perhaps Iran and Russia will need to participate in it as well. Nobody is excluding them. Presumably they do not want to see the bloodshed continue either, but we're not there right now. The intervention is happening, the foreign intervention is there, and we're going to see an escalation of the fighting rather than the other way around. So therefore, in summary situation, we have a crisis on our hand that is not about to improve conditions for those who are on the ground. And if there is no intervention, I think we all should get ready for a long-term civil war.
Elias, Hanna, let's look at the motives behind this suggestion. Why would Qatar, one of the smallest countries in the world, be putting itself forward to lead this proposal?
I think Qatar has played a major role during the Arab Spring. It is like positioning itself to play a major role because it has a high degree of flexibility, and it is really a part of the Arab Gulf system, allied to KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as to the Americans. And they have high degree of flexibility, not really assured for the Saudi Arabia, which is the major linchpin or the center of gravity of the Arab versus Iran today. Now we have to look at Syria within the grand strategy of Iran today. Syria or Iran without Syria is something different. It is local player in the periphery and the near abroad only. But Iran with Syria, it is a major regional power, especially after the withdrawal of the American in 2011. Now, and from this perspective, we have to see the tactical and the operational level. Now, the Arabs cannot really participate and don't really count on the Arab League. Now, I'm not trying to defend this regime, because we have fought this regime in Lebanon for more than 30 years. What I'm saying is, like, analyzing from an academic, from a military point of view, according to some standards. Now, all you can do as Arabs today, it's what's going on, the game in Syria today is number versus highly equipped army, organized, still one block, because it's like lose-lose situation for them, or zero-sum game. What you can do today is changing the system, give the number a weapon that really called game changer in the situation. For the long run, I guess that this regime will be overwhelmed by internal forces, not by external forces.
Okay.
This is the way it's going to happen, and everybody is waiting this moment. So far, from Qatar or from Saudi Arabia, they are covertly helping the resistance with money, but not with weapons considered as a game changer. Game changer means you start with anti-aircraft missiles.
Hassan, Hachimi, critics have dismissed this idea as simply a need for leaders to be seen to be saying something. How frustrated are you that we're seeing an awful lot of talking, and on the surface of things, if we put the covert operations aside for 1 minute, but on the surface of things, very little action?
Yes, I think we have always been saying that actions speak louder than words, and we have been seeing a lot of words without actions. And the problem that we have in Syria, like I was just saying, that we started against the regime, we ended up against Iran and Russia, and I wanted to draw from that the Arab initiative, if it has to work, it needs the international community's support, the Friends of Syria in particular, not the United Nations, the Friends of Syria support in order to overcome the impact, or try to neutralize the impact of Russia and Iran in the formula. I'm not sure if your guest's idea of involving Russia and Iran in this whole thing would help, because our conclusion after a year and a half, more than a year and a half, that Russia and Iran is deeply involved in the problem, and all what they are doing is supporting the regime, blocking any initiative. Look at the latest initiative of Egypt, which involved Iran in it. They keep adding and making things go into long procedure, and throwing suggestions that are really ridiculous into the same proposal. They are not there to help make it work. We all know that both Russia and Iran have made up their position very clear in supporting Bashar in particular, and they want him to stay. And this is what is really painful for us, because this is a decision that the Syrians only decide. And Syrians, when they reach into millions now, between the killed and the migrated and those who are impacted with this whole thing, this tells us that the revolution involves all of Syria. We all know that if people in Syria have their full freedom, they would express their mind differently. And today
we have run out of time. It's too short a show for too great a subject. We'll have to return to it again next week. But I just want to thank all our guests today for joining us. In Toronto, Hassan, Hachimi; in Beirut, Elias, Hanna and Joseph Kechichian. And thanks to you too for watching. The discussion and coverage of Syria continues 24 hours a day on our website, aljazeera.com. There you can also find this programme if you want to watch it again. For now though, from the whole team here, bye for now.